every Israeli officer, every Israeli civilian authority associated with the attack on this hospital is guilty of a war crime and should be prosecuted as such. This isn't an accident. This isn't a mistake. The law of war is clear, and Israel has violated it 100%. People need to get angry. People need to start getting angry. I'm tired of people going, well, we're just going to have a civil discussion. Imagine your child dead right now in the hospital. Imagine your mother going in for surgery and dying in the recovery room because she can't get the medical care she needs. It's time for everybody to get angry. Israel no longer gets a pass. This isn't about anti-Semitism. I'm not anti-Semitic. This is about calling out a regime, the Netanyahu regime, as a war criminal regime. And they must be recognized as such and treated as such. And I'm telling every Israeli pilot right now, we may not know your names because you're protected by the Israeli defense establishment, but we know the date you dropped your bombs. And one day justice will come to you because the records are clear. You climbed into a cockpit and you received an order and you executed that order, and you are responsible for the due diligence of the target that you're striking. You are responsible. And if you know that you're carrying out an act of violence as part of the mass, the indiscriminate bombing, the collective punishment of the Palestinian people, you have committed a war crime by definition, and you will be found out and you will be held guilty, just like every Israeli officer on the ground in Gaza right now. Hey, you battalion commanders, if you have snipers under your command and they're in schools shooting children, you're guilty. You're guilty. They're all guilty, and it's time we call them out for what they are. You know, I have been accused of condemning the Germans in World War II for what the Nazis did. And people said, well, they were good Germans. They were just German soldiers doing their job. Maybe you can make that case. But you can't collectively say that, because the Germans knew what they were getting into. And the soldiers knew what they were fighting for. And at some point in time, it becomes evident that you are participating in a massive crime against humanity. This is why German generals, not SS officers, German generals were hung by the neck until dead, because they turned a blind eye to these crimes they were responsible, that took place under their command, even though they didn't give the orders. I hope and pray that someday there's a Nuremberg tribunal for these Israeli officers. And I want to see the look in their eyes as they're led up to the gallows, wondering in their mind what's going on as feel the noose around their neck, knowing they only have seconds to live before the executioner pushes a button, their neck is snapped, because that's all they deserve. They don't deserve our adulation. They don't deserve our admiration. They don't deserve our sympathy. They deserve our mass condemnation for the criminals that they are. It's disgusting what's happening right now in Palestine. And this has nothing to do with Hamas. Nothing to do with Hamas. It has everything to do with Israel's national decision-making cycle, which mainstreams collective punishment, which singles out every single civilian in Gaza as an extension of Hamas, and that is a crime, a crime, a crime. And if you're a pro-Israeli person in the streets demonstrating for them, shame on you. Because this isn't about protesting against anti-Semitism. If it was about protesting against anti-Semitism, I'd be marching alongside, because there's no room for anti-Semitism, especially now. This is not a Jewish problem. The Jews are not to blame. Stop pointing the fingers at the Jews. This is about Zionism, political Zionism. This is about people who have taken political Zionism and they've turned it into this expression of a greater Israel. Eretz Israel. Show me anywhere in international law where the global community has green-lighted greater Israel. Nobody has. It's only in the sick fantasy of the Israeli leaders who govern Israel today. And if you're an Israeli fighting for Israel, you're not fighting for the defense of Israel as defined by the United Nations, as defined by 1948 or even 1967. You are fighting for a greater Israel, which means that you are saying we encourage a war of aggression against all of our neighbors, not just the Palestinians. This is a criminal regime. This is a sick regime, and it has to go. That doesn't mean that Israel has to go, but Eretz Israel is finished. Needs to be finished, it needs to be killed. And the whole world needs to rally around this cause. I'm ashamed of the Arab world right now. I'm ashamed of the Muslim world. They had an opportunity. They had that joint extraordinary meeting in Riyadh last Saturday where they had a chance to squeeze Israel dead with an oil embargo. And they chose not to, which means that they have chosen money and profit over Palestinian blood. So, yeah, this condemnation is across the board. For the leaders in Saudi Arabia, for the leaders in Turkey, just Erdogan may be out there saying the right thing, but he's allowing Turkey to transport Azeri oil over a pipeline onto ships in Turkish ports where they're sent to Israel to fuel the war machine. So Erdogan, you're a hypocrite. Shut the oil and I'll listen to you. Sisi, you better mobilize all your divisions and put them on the border with Israel and tell them that you are marching to Jerusalem if this doesn't stop. The king of Jordan, the same. Make Jerusalem yours again. Reverse 1967. Syria, take the Golan Heights. It's time for Israel to be terminated as a political Zionist state, because until it is, these crimes will continue. The Palestinians mean nothing. Their lives mean nothing. We're at the point now where numbers mean nothing because they become so big, you can't really attach a human face to them. It's just a figure on a piece of paper.